So my final task is to conduct the meeting until we elect the mayor. I'd like to certainly welcome you and congratulate you all on your election, but more to the point, congratulations on putting your own up and making it go. Really good to see some fresh faces around the table, and I'm sure you're going to form a very productive council. I have for you I'll just pass them around, it's easiest I think, just a lapel badge that you might like to wear. And probably down the track, I don't know, you'll get a coat and a tie and you'll get a white shirt. Yeah. So you all look part when you go to a conference or whatever, and also at meetings. I always think it's important to respect the position at a meeting, the way you dress, and I also believe that the way you dress often determine the behaviour. I think if you've got a tie on, you're probably not going to throw something at someone else. I honestly believe that, and I know if you go to Glenelg's council, they all wear suits. We didn't do that, but we did certainly wear a tie to the meeting and not quite formal to the committee. But anyway, that'll be up to the new council to decide what they do. I call now. So I open the meeting and call for any apologies, and I believe there's none.
No, there's no apology.
Okay. Now I ask somebody to take confirmation of the minutes of the previous ordinary and confidential council meeting.
Councillor Galvin, Councillor Dixon.
Moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. Those in favour say aye. Against no, carried. The call now for declaration of interest, gifts received and conflict of interest. This is a bit of a tricky one. We're doing all the committees, but generally you should be right. But there would be none, I presume.
No, Adrian is the president of the chamber, so
Can't be president.
Okay, yeah. Duly recorded. Right, now on to the big one, election of mayor.
before we move into that, all the councillors have taken their oath or affirmation, so they legitimately can sit in the meeting. The Local Government Act provides that I am the returning officer for the election, and at the moment I have two nominations for the mayor. I have one from Councillor Galvin, which is proposed by Councillor Galvin and seconded by Councillor Bishton, and the other one is for Councillor Crump, and it was nominated by Councillor Crispin and seconded by Councillor Wilmot. Are there any other nominations before we? You can nominate right up to now, if you want. What you will need to do then is to decide. We have two nominations, so we have to decide. First of all, we don't normally, we haven't in the past many years had an election, and as a returning officer, if the candidates would like, I'm happy for them to make a statement if they want to. So, how about we'll just go in alphabetical order and start with C and move to the G.
Yeah.
Good morning, fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, our General Manager and our outgoing Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to address this meeting on why I have nominated for the position of Mayor of Gwydir Shire Council. In recent weeks, we've all had the opportunity to meet with senior executives of Gwydir Shire to outline our aspirations for the term. Personally, I discussed the rural road network, the lack of early childcare access, the aged care gap between leaving home and entering a facility, and generally all things funded by local government. However, I also brought up the intergovernmental agreement between local and state government. I raised my concerns that the current state government holds with the commitment to local government financial models. They promised to develop new grant guidelines, build affordable housing on government land, implement the recommendations of the Parliamentary Inquiry into Rural Health, and my all-time favourite, they promised a $670 million emergency regional road repair fund. My sources say, however, that funding has been delivered to Labor electorates. I'm not here to talk party politics, but these are commitments that would make a huge difference to ours and our surrounding shires. The reality is we were almost halfway through this state government's 4-year term. Nothing has been developed, nothing has been built, reviewed or delivered. The 2024 local government election brought about newly elected councillors across the state. There are new mayors and deputy mayors, new councillors representing their communities, and Gwydir Shire fall into that category. Now is an ideal time that we, together with our neighbours, could and should align together with a common focus and purpose to pressure the state government to deliver a better system of funding, to assure the longevity of our rural and regional shires. Please note, I mean align, not amalgamate. To talk amalgamation, though, history tells us that there will be a knock on the door with amalgamation proposals. There have been 5 amalgamations in New South Wales since the 1970s, and we all know how the most recent forced proposals, which was thankfully aborted, panned out. Country shires don't have the same opportunities as our city and large regional counterparts. Paid parking and large developments come with revenue the country councils simply do not have the luxury of. A one-size-fits-all model of funding is outdated, and although our shire is sitting comfortably now, the opportunity to ensure our longevity needs to be investigated, and I, for one, believe that we need to change the funding formula rather than staying as the status quo. To tie back my meeting with senior executives, it is my opinion that to obtain funding for our rural road network, funding for early childcare access, bridging the gap with aged care and all things funded by local government, we need to focus beyond our aspirations and individual local government issues. We need to network, we need to make contacts, and we need to make a plan. I believe that Gwydir Shire can play a pivotal role in achieving this and also a different model of funding. I don't need to sit here before you and repeat my employment background, what kind of business I run, how many children I have, or whether I have the time for this role. I am, however, standing before you as a fellow elected councillor, asking for your support to steer our Shire as mayor. Regardless of today's outcome, I look forward to working with all of you throughout the next 4 years. Thank you.
Councillor Gilman.
I've just got some comments. So welcome everyone, all the new councillors. It's so nice to be working with a new group. And of course, Mash, who's been with me for the last 8 years, and I've been able to work with some amazing staff with over the last 8 years. After 8 years on Gwydir Shire as a councillor, I've decided to put my hand up for Mayor of Gwydir Shire. Over the last 8 years, I've had the privilege of working with a great team, both councillors and staff. I know I have big shoes to fill with John Colton retiring, but I feel I'm up for the challenge and promise to give it 110% at all times. I understand it's not just the tale of 2 towns, but also the surrounding villages in our Shire to think about. We live in the best part of the world and we need to protect what we have and continue to make it a great place to live and an even better place to visit, to keep people coming back. I feel we have a great new team that can achieve this together. I feel I'm approachable and I believe that we are a whole Shire and it's not just the incidentals. We've got to think about the roads, healthcare, which I had the privilege of going to a healthcare meeting with Brendan Moylan in Armidale the other day to address the issues in the area, and which I'm on this committee to see what we can do to get doctors in the area and how we can approach them to come here, because that is a big thing at the moment, but are even a bigger thing when Di and Clem decide to retire. And I think we will then feel just how bad it is from what they've given us. I'm right into the long day care, which we started up looking into last meeting, and we have some very interested parties, and I wish to follow that up and hope that we can pursue that in both Vingra and Royale. The parties seemed quite keen. I think we just have to get staff on board for it to happen. Yeah, and I'm just looking forward to representing you after. I feel I've worked very hard for 8 years and feel this is a challenge. I now have the time to do it with my eldest leaving and really just me to be there to look after everyone and be out there to see that we can keep this a great place to live and visit. Thank you. Please,
Leah's now handing out the very professional. What you need to do, as the returning officer, you simply need to indicate your preference for one. And it can be a cross, it can be a tick, it can be a one. But if you put two crosses, one tick, one cross, two ones, will be invalid. So you just have one selection to make. Hopefully, that won't be too taxing.
You'd have that, council.
A long time ago.
Oh, no.
All right, and Francis, would you like to be the scrutineer for the election?
Better get my glasses on.
Give my job.
I have yours gone.
Some time traveling there.
Like to borrow glasses.
Yeah.
I will when I need them.
Can't help it,
I
right?
did write in really big letters.
Thank you.
Everyone's? Francis.
Sure.
Yeah. You. It's all your glasses as well. Yes.
Oh, no, sorry.
This
No, no,
is
it's
my seat. Oh, that's so good. Yes, it is very new. I've never been through this before. Oh, I've got my.
I didn't actually get a resolution to have a ballot, actually, which is a bit poor, but I'm assuming that we followed this normal practice. And also, I'd like a resolution now to actually hold the ballot so that it's legitimate. And the second part is that we would destroy the ballot papers immediately the election is declared. Can I have a mover? Okay, well, it's Councillor Bishton and Councillor Dixon. The winner of the person that got the most votes anyway is Councillor Galvin. Congratulations.
Well done.
Do you want to say anything?
I'd just like to say thank you. I've been very nervous. I might sleep tonight and I promise to be here. And if you have any issues, please come to me about me. Please come to me rather than anybody else. And I'm happy to work it out with you. I like to keep, we've always had that where we can discuss it with each other rather than behind each other's backs. Yeah. And I hope that if I'm doing wrong, you can correct me. Thank you.
Also important. Yeah. Also important. Got any complaints about me? Go to them. You can come to me as well, but I'll just do it. So now we're on to the deputy mayor, and I do once again have two nominations. One from Councillor Sherman, who was moved by Councillor Galvin, seconded by Councillor Bishton, and I now have one from Councillor Coleman, moved by Councillor Crop and seconded by Councillor Collins. I'm not used to people's signatures yet. And both have indicated their acceptance of the nomination. Are there any other nominations? No? So we'll get the ballot papers ready.
Have you got a patent on those? Or?
First of all, I actually need a resolution.
Are you just
Normally-
gonna
Yeah.
Excellent.
Normally we have a resolution, the deputy mayor for the same term as the mayor. I need a resolution for that. That first of all, that you actually want to have a deputy mayor, and secondly, as part of the resolution, that it would be for 2 years. So I've got to move in a second. councillor Galvin, seconded by councillor Wilmot.
Help amongst yourselves. But we are being recorded.
Thanks.
So it could be for 1 year that the.
It could be, except that you've just resolved to have it for 2 years.
Spelled the name wrong there, Liam.
I hope not. Just leave straight away. Please don't judge me. It's like an SRR. Meeting takes a long time.
It's interesting, this morning, my wife Kerry dug out a letter that was very damaging to council from when we were proposing to do the service station in Bingra. From a Bingra resident who was opposed to what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise my pedigree was as long as it is. He was damaging, and he didn't matter what you did, anything at all on council, he was against it. And I'd never ever met him, but he hated me. Before, just as soon as I was elected, he hated me. And
Is that the one that's since passed?
he's passed
Yeah.
on, yeah. But and then it was quite interesting because it wasn't until sometime later we realised that it was his daughter that taught our children when they were in primary school.
Yeah, Catherine chewed me up one day telling me his mother was hungry too.
Anyway, point is, there's always someone going to be knocking what you do. Just do what you think's right and keep going.
Was that when council was looking at buying the service station because it wasn't an owner?
Yes,
It was,
we did it up, remember?
yeah,
And
it
bought
was,
It ended up, we borrowed money, we did it up, and then we sold it for profit. It was a very good move in the end. And Bingra had fuel, but
24-hour fuel.
yeah, 24-hour fuel. That was what we were after. But anyway, it was a contentious point with this chap.
but everything was with him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Everything was.
We ended up getting him because he was bringing grog into the meeting and drinking it while the meeting was on with a
In his sofa.
brown paper bag, So then we had reason to throw him out.
We wouldn't share it.
That was before he was on the council, but I nursed him and that was enough.
Anyway, it's full of adventures.
Can I have that?
David, do you want to be the scrutineer this time?
It's done. Then they can say, I'm sure. That's good getting given it, early. I give a good.
David can do it.
We met this, David.
A lot of times since you've done this, I feel like a game show host.
Yeah.
You can turn the legs around in it. I see.
Yep, the new deputy mayor is councillor Coleman.
On that note, I'll depart the chair and I'll hand over to the new mayor. I wish you all the best. Yeah.
Right.
Right one.
It's actually all right. Something for that.
Probably not allowed to wear it anymore.
Yeah. It is that we might do a more thing yesterday. In the there.
Right, your pedigree.
But going to have morning tea. The next item is the item 5.3, page 16 of the agenda, the committee membership. And I'll hand it around to all the councillors. A large group. I've received information from majority of the council. I'm still missing what Councillor Bishop's committee selections might be.
Do we have to send them in?
You don't have to, you can do it now. How much you? What normally happens,
Was that A3 sheet?
This one, John.
people that don't respond promptly get the.
Project from
Right.
John's already on the special events committee, but is that as a,
A community referral.
A community
Putting there again.
he's, yeah,
It looks like there's a couple I've been put on as per my predecessor.
You didn't choose them, you've just got them. Well done.
Probably rang them up and told them.
you don't have to.
It's fine.
Oh, were you talking about the bushfire liaison committee? Aren't you interested in?
It's not the fire break.
Well, we should be right for a while. then.
They're an entertaining group of people.
Max, did you want to ask about the heavy plant committee now?
Yeah, we've had no, other than Councillor Coleman, no interest in a heavy plant committee. I'm wondering whether we just put that into abeyance or are other people that are interested in heavy plant.
What does it involve?
Well, the anything, if you if you like playing with tractors, caterpillars,
Phone for them.
and again, we've been incorporating it basically into public infrastructure more. There was, in the last council, there were several councils that had a particular interest.
But every large purchase comes to the general council meeting.
Like we're talking, over 250,000 dollars.
Yeah, so the Act requires any purchase over 250,000 has to come to a council meeting regardless. The previous heavy plant committee functioned as a bit of a consultative group in making some of those decisions before they were adopted by council at a meeting.
I'll go on if you want. I'm happy to.
Or do we need one?
Well, what's the state like? Is it something that we're going to be looking at in the near future?
The plant replacement budget each year is about $1.5 million, so it's not a small amount of expenditure. We do have some large items of plant that will be rolled over the term of this council, things like a Polby mixer, several graders. So add all that together, you're not talking a small amount of money. And so it'd still have to come to the council regardless. But if there are people with a particular interest in that area that would like to be involved in the decision making of particular brands, particular sizes of plant, those sort of things, that's the function of that committee.
Anyone interested in being on the committee?
You always bring a few choices anyway, like when it goes to council, there's always 3 options of the heavy plant that have been shortlisted, isn't there, Alex?
In most cases, yes.
How often would you meet roughly?
Once every 3 months.
Yeah, not very often. And
I'll go on there if you want.
the real decisions were
Made it.
when you're doing the budget, you've got the planned replacement program, although there are changes during the year as circumstances. But for example, when we had significant storm damage and we had funding to do repair work, that altered some of the sorts of plant that we needed. Sure, I'll take Rachel off the bushfire. Hazel,
If you need someone there.
If you got four on the heavy plant, take me off. I only did it. I only had one.
retracting.
Well, if you've got four people, it's probably overkill. So
You can go on the bushfire liaison committee.
I'm already on a couple.
The councillor, normally, Nick, the local emergency management committee and the bushfire liaison committee went together. And in fact, what was David's Holden's title?
He was the chair of the IMC.
Was it the DEMO, the District Emergency Management Office?
No, he was only the local chair, of the police and the.
Right.
Another issue that was raised, Councillor Wilmot raised, he is currently the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and there could be circumstances where he may have to declare a conflict of interest about issues coming forward. So it would be good to have another councillor on the chamber who could represent the chamber's views if Councillor Wilmot wasn't able to.
So
So
you mean someone
from
this
Warrior
south or?
no, someone from Warrior who was interested in the chamber's activities would be a good person. Someone, who gave up the bushfire liaison.
Very diplomatic way of putting it.
So subtle, that is.
She's had her time at the chamber, haven't you, Rachel?
Narrows it down to one.
Yeah, sure.
Yardstick is attending one.
Is there no one on the Vision 2020, or did you just put your name?
There's no.
I'm president of the Vision 20 at the moment.
So, well, you can be the representative of the Warrior Chamber. I
You
do the
both
Vision
want.
2020.
Okay. Well, what goes on? You bringing the two towns together?
Are you an office bearer on the Vision 2020 at the moment?
Yeah, I'm the president.
Oh,
Don't do much.
yeah. Oh, but it'll be recorded as a potential conflict in the beginning of the minutes when you read them. So Councillor Galvin has indicated she'd be happy to be a councillor rep on that as well.
I think I was last time, wasn't
No, you weren't.
I? Wasn't
No, I think it was Catherine.
it? Okay.
Is everybody freezing now?
It's
I put a jacket on because I know what you're liking.
takes a while to get going.
That's quite nice.
What's the New England JO?
The New England JO, that's the mayor is the statutory representative on that. Yeah.
That was B Rock.
But they're both in abeyance. Yeah. Sort of nothing's happening and the state government haven't made up their mind about what's going to happen with joint organisations. There are a number of other groups that don't have someone nominated, so if you're happy, someone can nominate that these will be the committee memberships and then we'd be able to make changes as required during the year. Councillor Crispin?
You got someone on the border one?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Councillor Coleman indicated, yeah. Sorry, I meant. That's that, yeah. Also, the mayor is on that as well. I think that was one of the more enjoyable ones of the former mayor, actually, so. Do I have a second up?
Yeah.
Rachel? Do you?
Yep.
You need to put that motion.
So I put that motion, those that agree say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is the meeting schedule, 5.4, page 19 on the agenda. And as pointed out in the report, it basically follows the previous meeting cycle. Although in the discussions we had with councillors at the executive level, it became clear that it would be more convenient if the meetings, if they were to stay morning meetings, started at 10 o'clock.
What's everybody's views? Everyone's still happy having morning meetings and still happy having it on the Thursdays?
9, did you say, or 10?
10.
That means we can finish a bit later.
No, what happens is that the meetings actually usually go to lunchtime, and if we started at 7, they go to lunchtime. If we started at 11, they go to lunchtime. Christopher principle. So
Yeah.
if we start at 10, they'll usually finish it with lunch.
And
We always have lunch and then go, and those that have to go don't stay. If they've got other meetings, mightn't stay to have something to eat, but we always.
And also the meeting schedule, if everyone's agreeable, the ones at Bingra, if the living classroom's available, we'll hold the meetings there until the new building's finished, simply because all the audio equipment is set up there now, and it's much easier than the way we set it up at the Roxy.
So we need a.
Is there a reason makes the November meetings the first Thursday instead of the second Thursday? That one and the February meetings the first Thursday too.
Oh, well, that was because of the gap between this meeting and there, and also the country mayor's meeting is on the following week, and the Thursday I'll be travelling down to Sydney to the mayor and general manager both be away. You can certainly have the meeting, but we'll be both the apologies.
Because I thought it was the second, though I can change my booking.
That was the reason.
And it's a committee meeting on the 7th.
On the 7th, yeah, you can not have the committee meeting.
We've done that in the past.
I think-
If we've had the workshops and things, we've skipped the committee meeting, haven't we?
Well, Councillor Crispin was telling me he gets 10 days special leave from the education department. So he has to be careful in how he manages those 10 days, I'd imagine, or he starts
Other
everything
leaves,
as don't leave.
I can manage it. I'll use other leave.
Anyway, that's why it was the 7th of November.
what do I do when I talk?
Yeah.
Well, yes,
So the two meetings will be Warrior 1 month, Bingra the next.
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, have it alternate months. So you have the committee meeting and the council meeting in the same town, alternate months. And you have it, it's usually on the second Thursday and the last Thursday of the month.
Was Thursday suit everyone?
Tradition. So we're having it or we're not having it? Second.
Well, it's up to the council. Everything's up to the council.
It's a very
It's an
long
open
time.
slot.
A long time
We've got
between now and the 29th
Yeah.
of November.
Yeah.
For your next meeting is the only issue if you can the 7th November.
We should push on, I think, and have it.
I'll move it.
Oh,
You'll be here, Sean, because you'll have to run the meeting. Or I might be able to change, I don't know, if I can
Yeah.
change my airfares, that's all.
I'll make it work.
You have a seconder?
Okay, we've got a first and seconder, so now we put the motion forward. Those that agree say aye.
In that, was there a change to 10 or 9?
It'll be 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
That gives people that have got like Sean's got a distance to come, like maybe it's a bit different. We could have had it in the evenings, but then you're fighting kangaroos going home and yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, the next item is it's listed as the countback election, which item 5.5 on page 20. And this is a process that if someone resigns within 18 months from the council, the person next in line, which would be Ravi, would be automatically, if he chooses to put his name forward, he'll be contacted by the State Electoral Commission, and if he fills out the appropriate paperwork, if there's a vacancy within the next 18 months, that would be filled by Ravi. This would, save us $40,000 to $50,000, probably a bit more, because we don't have wards. Every election is the whole Shire. The decision has to be made at the first meeting, this meeting.
Pass the recommendation.
Bash.
Yeah. You guys have ranked up my short end too, because there were so many
Those
MCs.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Those in agreement say aye.
Next item is 5.6, page 25, the election results. And also it will be the way of recording all the oaths and affirmations that have been taken into the minutes. And just for interest, the count is included there. I know at some stages it's very difficult to read. One of the good things about tablets is you can expand them, not so well on paper. So, that's really just for information. If we comply with section 2 through 8 of the local.
Been a long time getting here. Everyone's probably had nerves and all the rest, but we're all here. So we need a first and a seconder. So Councillor Dixon and Councillor Sherman. Those in agreement say aye.
Now, the next one's the one I'm sure we've all been looking forward to. The draft 30 June 2024 financial statements with that the statements have to be signed off by the mayor and deputy mayor. We didn't have any mayor and deputy mayor meeting, but until they are signed, they can't be submitted to the audit office, although the contracted auditor that undertakes our audit has finished all the process, and I think it just basically be a rubber stamp at the audit office.
Everyone should have a copy of the engagement closing report from the audit office, and then that will go into the audit. They just can't issue the final certificate until it's signed, and they have said that they'll have an unmodified opinion on the general purpose, special purpose and special schedules. So there's nothing to be concerned about. We just need to get them submitted before the 31st of October for compliant legislation.
And the audit office will be council meeting in November.
In November, yeah.
To
They have said again this year that they'll be in person. They will never come in person because once they realise how far away from Sydney we actually are, they change their mind. So it's always a virtual team meeting, but someone from the audit office will speak to you all and allow questions from any of you to them during that meeting.
There are no silly questions. If you've got questions, please ask them. You can either ask them here or you can ask Helen or myself or Leah out of the meeting. For a small struggling council, that's reflected in our budgets and statements. It's the reality of the situation. However, we've only got 5,000 people and 2,500 kilometres of roads. Going to be a small struggling council. And amalgamation, even though, as you rightly pointed out, it could be threatened, I can't see how amalgamation in any way, shape or form addresses the problems that we have maintaining our road network. If we were amalgamated with Moree, you just have a slightly bigger, even more struggling council.
And our biggest problem was last, which Helen or Alex will explain, we got all the grant funding for the flood damage, but it wasn't being paid by the government. So we were trying to cover that, weren't we?
Would you like me to speak to that? So in total, we have, I think it's going to eclipse $30 million flood damage across 5 natural disaster declared flooding events since 2020. There were very serious cash flow issues between the state and council to the point where at one stage we're owed, I think, in excess of $4 million. And it was basically the result of a workload that the state government never saw happening with repeated flooding right across the state and very serious stuff in the northern rivers. I don't know, I think there's some legitimacy to their actions. Put a focus on the northern rivers where things were very, very bad. And that meant that councillors like Gwydir, whose problems may have been viewed as an inconvenience in comparison, despite the fact that they weren't in reality, were put to the wayside. So we actually suspended our disaster recovery works for a few months and said that we weren't going to conduct any more until the cash flow started happening again. The cash flow did start coming back in, and we have some assurances that that's going to continue into the future, but it's not a minor issue.
So on top of that, we're $20 to $30 million. We've also still got all our roadworks projects going. So at the moment, Ivy Bore Road has been finished, but we're owed almost in excess of $2.5 million for that we're currently carrying. We've also got the building payments that for the new building in Bingra that will start coming out monthly between now and July next year. So we're going to prepare a report for the next council meeting about borrowing further funds to get us through the next couple of years, because unfortunately, even though we do get reassurance we're going to get paid, they don't. And we did have issues 2 years ago where when the bypass got finished, we were guaranteed we were going to have the money. We paid back the money for that borrowing and the money didn't come in for a further 4 months. And we ended up using restricted funding because that money didn't come in, which then gets reported to Parliament. So to ensure that that doesn't happen again, I would suggest we borrow further funds to make sure that we get through this next lot of roadworks and building works and capital projects to make sure we don't have that happen again.
And rather ironically, that issue with restricted cash being reported to Parliament, it was only intervention from our local members that got those payments through eventually.
That's the only way you can get anywhere with it, Alex. Through local members.
Well, there comes a point where that's where you start prodding, and they wield a bigger fist than we do.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating process because we're told what we need to do to put the claims in. We do all of that. And unfortunately, for 3 months, we were told, the staff member didn't push the button or the staff member didn't put the claim in or an unknown staff member just hasn't done something. And we were out $1.5 million for 4 months. Like it's really frustrating and there's not a lot we can do about it. But I think it's important we make sure we're in a situation where we don't have, because unfortunately the audit office will say that's our problem. We told them why we went into restricted funding and they don't care.
Just for reassurance of the council, we're not conducting any works that we don't have approved funding deeds for. That's not the issue. There are deeds that are legally binding that are executed by both parties. It's simply a cash flow issue from the two tiers of government above us back to council.
And if that cash flow comes, do we have the labour to be able to do the works?
It's another issue.
That's probably it'd be best if I put a more comprehensive report on that to go to the Public Infrastructure Committee meeting, or I'm happy to meet with councillors after the meeting to talk about roads in particular, or if you'd like me to do it now, I can do it now. Yeah?
Yes.
So in total, we are sealing about 85 kilometres of gravel road, starting back on the Horton Road, which is finished now. The remaining roads are all in the North Star area, all grant funded, and we've been able to do all of those works with the exception of one job on Werns Road down in Bundara in-house. With our current grant funded program and our recurrent works program, we have adequate staffing. When we get final approval for our $30+ million of flood damage that we think is still to come, the short answer is no. We do have a panel contract in place that has at least 3 full service contractors on it. The private construction game has gotten a little bit tight over the last 6 months, so those people are crying out for work. I don't think there's going to be an issue with us approaching private enterprise and getting them doing full service work, fixing flood damage. There's a very frustrating quirk in the disaster recovery funding arrangements that say we have 2 years from the 30th of June in the year that the event happened to complete all works. In some cases, it takes 6 months of that period just to approve the claim, and then we're on the back foot from day dot. So that's got fairly short time frames. So I think that there's a very strong chance we will need contractors to assist us with those works. As I said, everything that we've got, our recurrent works program and our major grant funded stuff, no problems resourcing at all. We have fattened our fleet. We're running 9 graders at the moment. We usually only run 7. We were running 10 for a period of time. We currently have a bitumen jet patching truck on hire, so there'll be 3 running of those for some time. We have a small number of temporary staff to bolster our own workforce. The simple solution is to go out, buy more plant and put on more staff. And we actually don't seem to have trouble getting staff working for us in the construction space. The issue that comes from that approach is in 2 years' time, when all this work dries up, we're paying out redundancies. It's not fun to make people redundant. Nobody feels good about doing it, and it's expensive.
Is there legislation of what you've got to pay them sort of stuff?
Yeah, there absolutely is. I'm not sure after 2 years what it would be, but it still would not.
In 10 weeks.
Yeah, 10 weeks pay. And when you and we did this with limited success. Advertised positions that are only 2-year contracts or 18-month, 1 year. People are quite reluctant to leave current stable employment for something that is quite uncertain.
You just don't get the quality in your applicants if it's a temporary position. The temporary jobs that we have now really will form part of our succession planning. So we do have people on temporary contracts. The majority will keep, because we have an aged workforce. So they'll train while they're poking along in a temporary position. And we expect that, I can't remember the number, but quite a few people will exit in the next 5 years. And they're the highly skilled operators that will be retiring in the not too distant future. But to put on any more would be a real problem.
And also the plant that goes with them. Graders that cost us $450,000  4 years ago are now almost $700,000 for the same machines. our plant replacement budget this year is adopted at 1.5 million. Put 2 graders in there, then we're not doing anything else with plant for the year. Bit of a long answer to your question, but
Councillor Bishton.
I have a question, sir, madam, about the financials on page 45. Is that appropriate to ask? Yeah. Well, it says the operating result is 3.3 million, the deficit, before grants and contributions provided for capital purposes. But then up in, I don't know, 4 or 5 lines down, it's got grants and contributions provided for capital purposes. Can you just explain that? Yes.
All that result, that takes out all our funding that's for capital projects. They take out the income, but they don't take out the matching expenditure for that. So it's a ratio that we get marked on, but it's not a very fair. So what it's pretty much saying is, if council didn't get any of the capital funding works, would they still be viable? But they're not taking out the capital expenditure. So it's just pulling out. So from that 10, our capital grants was that 13 million.
Yep.
So that's the line that comes out to get you 3 million.
Oh, so it's not even in there in the add up.
So it's in to make our $10 million profit for the year.
Yep.
But that bottom line is simply taking
Oh, okay,
that
yeah,
capital grants and contributions
I
line.
was just concentrating on the negatives.
Yes, no.
Any more questions?
One that stood out to me, but I think you explained it, was the waiting for all that flood damage on page 46 or 5 of 74. We budgeted for about 36 and we ended up getting half of it. That's it.
It's a very, very frustrating process because it's not just getting told, we then get promised and we ask and we submit everything like we're supposed to, and then there's just delay after delay after delay.
The other thing that tends to distort all this information is when a grant comes, it's recorded in the year it's received, but it may well relate to expenditures in the next year.
So on the 30th of June, any grant funding we've had come in.
So out of the good old way, you can accrue. So you actually matched up what happened in one year with the income that was received. This new accounting standard is to make it easier to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes off our profit and loss. Any revenue we receive that is for a specific project, on 30th of June, it no longer becomes income. It becomes a contracted liability at the 30th of June. First thing Monday morning on the 1st of July, it goes back in, it's reversed as a contracted liability and becomes income again. So it's not actually shown as income if it's, which would be also why our budget was so high. And any money we did have come in, the work didn't get done, it becomes a contracted liability till the next one. We will be doing further sessions after you do your 2 induction days. We'll do some workshops on the quarterly review, the budgets and all that sort of stuff, so people can kind of have a less formal environment to ask questions and get their head around anything that they want further explained.
I'm sure the luxury of grants won't be as common as what they've been in the past. So that little pat's turned off, I'm sure.
Makes it hard. Any more questions? Can we have a mover or a seconder for that part, please?
Yes, it would be long with the foundation.
Councillor Wilmot and Councillor Thomas.
Page 139 too.
Okay, we have page 139, item 5.8, August and September 2024 investment and rates collection report. I'll hand over to Helen to get this.
So this is just our standard monthly report that reports to council on the money we have in the bank all of the restrictions that we do. So you'll see, even though there's $32 million in the bank, by the time you take out the water, sewer and waste fund restrictions that are external restrictions, and then all our internal restrictions for employee leave, the financial assistance grant, all our bonds and deposits we hold in trust for NARU and any other Section 355 committees, unexpended grants, the developer contributions, our asset replacement, and any other internal restrictions. So there's August and September provided there. So as legislation requires, we have to provide that report to council within 2 months at the end of the month, so that you're aware. And if any of that changes at the end of the financial year, we'll resubmit all of the reports for the 12 months, because there are sometimes changes to the month once journals and stuff get processed. So there may be slight adjustments. So that's just the total cash graph. And as you can see, it has a pretty steady line every year of council's cash coming in and going out. And then you've also got the rates collection report that just shows you of the rates that are levied at the start of the financial year, at what point we have collected for the year. And it's also a very standard figure every month, even over during the drought and stuff. We have a huge amount of our community that are actually on payment arrangements, so they just have a certain amount come out of their bank account or put into our bank account every week or every fortnight or every month, so that they're paying their rates off continuously. And that's why we have such a good collection figure.
How come the employee entitlements are $1 million neat?
That's a figure we can have that as whatever we would like it to be. It could be zero. There's no actual requirement to have a specific amount. We've worked it out that about $1 million of the total we owe all our employees, if everyone was to take either retire or whatever in a big chunk, $1 million would cover us in the short term to pay those out. So that's just for if a significant amount of staff.
Yeah, it's not exact.
No.
For all.
No, it's way higher than that. What we actually owe in employee leave entitlements is far higher than that. But as far as the cash restriction goes on what we have to have readily available, we could have that as zero if we wanted to. I don't think that's a true reflection to have it at zero. So we are covered to a degree if the off chance, because we do have a lot of long-serving staff that when they do retire, they will cost council money in all the leave they've got owing to them.
Been there 50 years. Yeah. Got one that's been employed 50 years.
Really?
Yeah.
And what are the asterisks next to
So that line's disappeared. So they are just in there for any changes to those figures. There's supposed to be a line that's disappeared there that says may change due to end of month processing. Sorry, I'll have to get that.
No, that's okay.
I don't know where that
I
is.
was thinking if there's an asterisk, it's usually this is
Yes, and it is just to let you know that those figures can change at the end of the month when we do our processing, especially this report for 30th of September had to be completed by the 1st of October. So there was a lot of processes we haven't actually run for September when that was done. So
back to the leave entitlements, it's something that the auditors always include in their letter, the fact that we have staff with such high, that we have such a high leave liability. So twice a year we send out letters encouraging long-serving staff to take leave, but we have flood works and road works and that have to be done in a certain time, and they're our long-serving, highly skilled staff that have high leave balances. So it's something that can't be avoided.
They're very dedicated.
Yeah, so no doubt you'll hear the auditor say every year the leave liability is a concern. Well, it's a concern because we need them on the ground.
And if they don't take leave, does that then accumulate and it gets paid out when they retire?
yes,
Right.
yeah, at a much higher rate than
Yeah.
because it's
And I
indexed
think-
every year.
Closer to retirement, a lot of people like to do that.
In
Yeah, rates go up,
a
all that part.
incentive for people that had X amount of sick leave. Didn't we pass that
Yeah.
a long time ago?
Yes, if you've got I think it was more than 1,000 hours. You get an additional ex gratia payment. I think it's 8 or 10 weeks of
8 weeks.
retirement.
Yeah, so sick leave doesn't accrue, long service and annual leave does. So when someone leaves the organisation, they don't take their sick leave balance with them. But we have an internal policy where we reward people with over 1,000 hours of sick leave with a payment, which has worked quite well.
Then you're not having people
Using up all their sick days.
Yeah.
just because.
We have some staff that'll ring and ask what their sick leave balance is so they can take it. And then when they get sick, they need help. So
But then we've got other staff that have got 12 and 1,300 hours of sick leave that have obviously not been sick their entire working career. So you want to reward that to staff that have been here a long time so they can kind of work
Reckon a
hard.
year, how many a year?
We get 3 weeks sick leave.
You count your annual leave, or can they just keep building and building it?
it's our policy is that they shouldn't have more than 8 weeks, but it just keeps building for people like our vinyl trim grader drivers that we can't spare.
There is legislation that allows us to force people to take leave after we give them enough notice, but it's a pretty ordinary way to repay people that are trying to get stuff done to force them to take leave. So we want it to be a mutually agreeable time, but
We've just gone through it with annual leave because of the auditor's recommendations. Yeah.
They're the fun police, I reckon.
so we've got long service leave, annual leave as, so
I think we're lucky we've got so many dedicated grader drivers that want to see things finished on those roads, then they take the leave. It's a bit of a no-win situation. Yeah. Any more questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Sherman and
Sorry about the lack of induction. If there's an emergency, just run.
At the way it came in.
There's a kitchenette through that door. And there is another toilet around the corner there.
While we're chatting about sick leave, I won't be at the meeting on the 7th of November because I've got a follow-up heart specialist meeting I'm going to be in Sydney. So there'll be an apology for that meeting.
as well.
Yeah, well, that's a lot.
Good luck.
I can tell you, having a heart operation really digs into your sick leave. I'm glad that I had a period of not being very sick because I had well over 1,000 hours, and that's been eaten into well and truly. So I keep on telling employees here, do not just use your sick leave. It will come in handy. But as someone said, we've got people that know down to half a day how much they've got.
Oh, by businesses.
And they're the same people that come to you wanting special consideration when they actually do get sick. Or
Yeah, because in football they broke their leg on the weekend or something.
I think that's consistent with most businesses.
And age groups.
We done?
Yeah, you can.
That's
I can also suggest we might, close the meeting, but we've still got then a little while. We can close the meeting and then start to chat. If you want.
so what we usually do is close the meeting and then we go into councillors.
No, it's not on.
Oh, okay.
Next time.
Yes,
Well, we'll talk
councillor
about that.
reports comes into the next meeting and you have time to discuss things, that someone might have brought up or whatever, but we'll save that for the next meeting. Any more questions before we close the meeting? Close the meeting at
10:30.
Yeah.